everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Bree.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Damn Strong Podcast.
For now. Although, should we just rebrand it right now? Should we just do this thing?
Every time you bring it up, I always say, I don't know. We have a really fun idea for launching the brand name. And so I kind of want to wait for that.
Do we? What's the idea?
The Real.
Oh, the Real. That's right. Oh, the Real. Yes.
I can't believe I forgot about that.
I remember now. Okay. We'll wait one more, maybe 2 more weeks tops.
Yeah, we have to make that a priority to film that and get that edited and
we will
and post.
Okay. So the Damn Strong Podcast for now.
For now. But you have something good, important to talk about? I don't know.
I guess it's just like a thing. Yeah.
What did you do today that you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, I ended my cut. So 7.5 weeks in, I started June 1st. Today, time we're recording this is July 24th. And I don't know. I guess there's a few reasons that went into that. I think I'm going to make a post about it, like why and what and, all that. But, really generally, I don't have any, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not going up on stage. I'm not trying to meet any certain weight. So it's really like, how long do I want to embrace the grind of a cut? And I feel pretty happy. I have visible abs. Like I have like muscle striations in my shoulders. Like I feel lean. And I was telling people, people who said like, how long are you going to go? I was telling people, I'm going to go until I look like a freak, until I'm really freakish. But then as it got closer, to like, I'm getting lean, and I started remembering like, dang, this starts to suck really bad. Like you can't go aggressive anymore. So I started out really aggressive with about a 1,000, maybe 1,100 calorie deficit per day, which is so much bigger of a deficit than I would recommend for 99.99% of people. But, I have experience doing this. I know what I can handle. And then as I got leaner, I stopped doing it. All right. As I got leaner, I decreased the aggressiveness. So, now I'm eating like 2,500, or I was eating 2,500 calories. My maintenance is about 3,000, give or take. So I was still in a 500 calorie deficit, maybe roughly about a pound per week. But every day I was dealing with hunger despite increasing my calories. I was tired of forcing myself to get like 12 to 15,000 steps a day. So once I kind of know it's time for me to wrap up a cut, once I'm having feelings of like, wow, this really sucks, about 4 out of 7 days of the week. If it's just one bad day, whatever, gloss over it. 2 bad days, whatever. 3, 4, 5 days per week, that's when it's like, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. So quick stats, 7.5 weeks, lost about 13, 14 pounds. Maybe 2-3 pounds of that is stomach content, water, maybe 6, 7, 8 pounds is body fat, roughly. I mean, it doesn't really matter exactly what those numbers are. I'm not getting a DEXA scan or anything like that. What else? I don't know. Now I'm just going back to a bulk to maximize muscle growth. I'll probably be doing this until like the trajectory of this, because of how slow I'm going with the bulk. I'm not just dumping calories up. For me to get to 180 pounds, which is my current target weight, from 160, which I am today. So 20-pound jump during a bulk. It'll take me to December to get that. Of 2024.
You're wanting to get there by December, or
no? It will take me to December of 2024.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. I was like, wait a second, December of this year. I was like, we got some chatting to do. Like,
Just be like, I'm eating like while I'm recording this podcast.
Like, why are we trying to gain weight that fast? You know what I mean? No. We've talked on the previous podcast that it's like there's a point where it's just like you're not gaining muscle any faster. You're just putting on body fat. And so I like these specified 2024. I'm like, okay, that's much more realistic, and
So we'll see. I'll probably like put a cut somewhere in there, just I like feeling lean, not super, super lean. I don't mind being a little bit fluffy, but I know where like that upper end is of like how, what I feel comfortable doing. I don't mind pushing those limits a little bit, but that's kind of my rundown.
Did you utilize any like calorie cycling when you were in your deficit, or were you pretty like, you didn't really need to?
My philosophy on most fat loss phases, and if you have a lot of weight to lose, I think you should be listening up really closely right here, is find out what your estimated maintenance is and just stick below that. And it doesn't really matter, especially if you have a decent bit of weight to lose. If there's a day where you are in a 800 calorie deficit, and then there's days where you're at maintenance or at 100 calorie deficit, you're still losing body fat over time. So it's like, I'm very flexible. on any given day. And when I know that, like, okay, yeah, I'm eating down to 1,800 calories, I'm probably gonna be hungry the next day or that day. But then the next day, like, oh, a friend is coming over, or oh, I'm watching UFC, or oh, we just want pizza or something, or takeout or something like that. I can go up to 2,800 calories. Not too bad, honestly. So that kind of flexibility, I don't know, it allows me to not need calorie cycling, although I do think it's a good idea, especially for people who are more social on the weekends. I don't really leave my house that much, candidly. So
yeah. Well, and it's also helpful for people who, I'm going to say females, who are just going to be naturally at a lower calorie intake in general, like your maintenance or what can be a deficit for you. And you also, well, there's multiple ways I feel like we can chat about this, but it's just like, it's easier for someone with a higher deficit to be more social if you are, because it just allows you to fit in those foods easier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think it also probably helped too. That's like, one, when you're on, you know that you're 100% of the time. And so if there's one day where like, hey, a friend's coming over, we're going to have some slice of pizza, I'm going to go out of my calories a little bit. Not a big deal, because if we divide that calories over the course of your week, maybe you're only 50 calories outside of your deficit range that you want to be in. And then, on top of that, it's like, you're probably not going crazy drastically over. It's not like you're having this 5,000 calorie binge of a day. It's like, hey, I'm going to have a few extra slices of pizza. It's going to put me more maintenance for the day, but overall, and still in a deficit for the week. And so it's like an unintentional calorie cycling in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just like me understanding that like both of us do, and hopefully the majority or all of our audience does at this point, is like, one day is not going to make or break a diet. You're fine. You're fine.
I had a client this weekend. She went to a state fair. And she's like, how do I track for the state fair? I was like, to be honest, I was like, do what?
Good luck.
I go, honestly, it's going to be really hard. I go, I don't know what your state fair is like. I go to State Fair of Texas, which is a giant state fair. And like, we have, peanut butter and jelly, fried mac and cheese on a burger, wrapped in jalapenos in bacon, topped with an ice cream sundae.
It's like how much could that be? 400 calories?
Right? It's insane. It's like the amount of time you take tracking would be insane. I was like, you know what? We've done, not that you have to do really well in your progress to like have a day where we don't track, but it's like, she's done super well in her progress. We've seen, over a pound per week. And it's like, hey, what if we just don't track this one day? Right. And I also looked at the calories, like, look, this is the calories you've hit so far for this week. Let's just assume that you hit the low end of your calories for the rest of the week. And let's give you 4,000 calories for Saturday. She was still in her range for her calories. Yeah. Because naturally she'd eaten a little bit less during this particular week, not for any specific reason, but she did. I plugged in 4,000 calories for Saturday, and then I put her on the low end of her 1,800 calories is her low end for her range, but 1,800 calories for Sunday, and she was still within a range. And I was like, this is why I'm honestly not worried about you tracking when you go to the state fair, because one, if we're being mindful and you're not going to the fair super hungry, you're tasting stuff, you're not eating stuff if it doesn't, you don't enjoy it, you're not going to hit 4,000 calories. That'd be really, really, really difficult. And she didn't. Like, she ended up actually taking photos of all her food. She still went back and tracked, and she ended up having like 2,700 calories. And so I went on her sheet today and I plugged in 2,700 calories. She actually is below her range for the week. And so we just make such a big deal out of these days where something's untracked or you go over your calories and it doesn't affect it as much as you think it will.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand how good of coaching that is from Bree right there. It's like, the coaches that are, it's not necessarily a yellow flag to just be like, you have to track, just do your best, versus the coaches that are just like, dude, your progress looks great. Even if you go absolutely bananas, it's not going to affect your long term. So Yeah. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. It's just, it's an example of what good coaching looks like. And if you're looking for a coach, Bree is somebody who gets top recommendation every time.
Thank you. Appreciate the Alex stamp of approval. So.
Yeah. For the people on video, they actually got
they got your stamp.
They got my stamp.
Yeah. Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about in which by the way, I'll be going into a cut.
Are you officially? Oh,
I am. So I wrestled with it a lot. And honestly, the post that I posted about it, people provided a lot of helpful thoughts and some stuff that I think I've been wrestling, but people made enough good points. I was like, you know what? Why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in deficit for at least 4 weeks.
Nice.
At the end of the 4 weeks, decide, do I want to continue or do I want to go back into a bulk and finish that out? The part that I was struggling with is like, why do I want to waste 4 weeks to figure out if I want to be in a cut when I could be in a bulk? Like, that's 4 weeks wasted building muscle.
Yeah.
And I said that to a friend the other day, and she's like, but that's also really telling of how you feel about being in a deficit. The fact that you don't want to waste 4 weeks of being in a bulk. And so I still, in my brain, was kind of going back and forth. But I was like, you know what? I have the rest of my life to build muscle. Why am I so concerned with not optimally building muscle for 4 weeks? Let's just go into a deficit, see what happens. And if I hate it, that's the great thing about your journey, is that you always can change it. So officially in 7 days,
Ooh.
I'll be going into.
So August 1st, that's the day?
August 1st.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the day. That will be a full year from when I started my bulk. So
congratulations on that. I mean, committing to a bulk for an entire year is a very scary thing to do, especially like bulking through summer, and you achieve that. So well done. Seriously.
Thank you. I think it's because everyone has the wrong, and I know we talked about this on some episode, but probably on the bulking episode, everyone has the wrong idea of what a bulk is. They think it's just uncontrollable weight gain and you put on 30 pounds. And there are people that do put on 30 pounds, but I mean, you're going for 20, but again, that's over the course of 2 years, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, the goal is to put on muscle as optimally as possible with the least amount of body fat. And so for me, it's like, I'm 12 pounds up. And does that sound scary for a lot of people? Maybe, but it's like, I know in 12 weeks, I can lose those 12 pounds. I spent a year putting on 12 pounds.
Right.
And then I can, and all that's not body fat. That's also muscle with that.
Get rid of that in 8 weeks.
Yeah. And then you give me, I mean, honestly, I probably could do a little bit faster than 12 weeks because I know I can dial stuff in. But give me eight. Yeah, give me 8 to 12 weeks. Yeah. I can lose 12 pounds of body fat if I wanted to. So. Right.
That's the thing, is like, it's so much faster to lose body fat than it is to gain muscle. It's like,
so much
for the people listening, man, spend more time. If ultimate body recomposition is your goal, if you want to get bigger muscle and look leaner and look more toned, we don't really love that word around here, but we're going to use it. Like, consider spending more time in a bulk to maximize muscle growth so that you can then reveal it with a fat loss phase down the road.
Well, and I feel like also when you're coming from an aesthetic point of view and you're uncomfortable putting on body fat, the more you create that shape that you desire, the body fat lays on that shape and you'll be more comfortable not being as lean. Or at least that's what I found in my
100% agree.
experience. Because I remember back when I was in the 150s, I mean, the highest I ever got was in the 160s. And I'm like, dude, I'm in the 150s and I could push to 160 and I probably would still be comfortable, but my body shape is completely different. And I have the shape, the aesthetic that I desire. And so the fat's just enhancing almost, I mean, you could argue either way, right? Enhancing almost that shape. And so that's why it's not as uncomfortable, I think, for me now. But it's like you have to get to that point to have that shape and you have to spend time out of a deficit.
For sure. If you got a lot of muscle and then you have like a layer of body fat covering that muscle, it just looks like extra padding. It looks like an extra suit of armor versus like if you don't have the muscle there in the first place, you will look like an amorphous blob. I mean, that's
amorphous blob.
I mean, am I wrong? Wrong?
Well, I hope no one's listening to this thinking like, I don't have any muscle, I look like a blob. You don't. But
yeah, no, there's like bone structure and stuff. But the general sentiment here, I don't want to be mean or anything. Like, I'm not trying to like call, but like,
no, I know you're not.
Okay, we can say, we'll say you look like a limp noodle. You look like like a noodle.
Yeah, I just always think it's just like if you have something to push through that fat, that shape is going to show. But you have to be so much leaner to see your muscle if you don't have a lot of muscle.
Right.
You realize like you can see so much more muscle on someone who isn't very lean because they have a lot versus that's why it's just like, I hate the word tone because I think what it chases is
small,
having just enough muscle that you don't feel like bulky or manly or whatever it is in women specifically. And then you get really low in body fat. And it's like, if you gain like, I don't say a few pounds, it's probably a little dramatic, but you gain 10 pounds, you've lost the ability to see your muscle versus if I've gained 12 pounds, it's like, you can still see my shoulders. You can still see my quads and all that because I have that basis underneath. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, our talk about, I think this is a good segue. Our talking about, fat loss and bulking and stuff like that. What is something that goes along with that? Metabolic adaptation. When you are, I mean, that's just pro. That's a pro right there. Yeah. And that's the topic of our episode is metabolic adaptation.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is first to answer, what is metabolic adaptation and how does it affect weight loss or weight gain efforts? You want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So metabolic adaptation is basically your body's ability to readjust how many calories you are burning Yeah, I don't know if I have the best
There's
definition for it, but
there's a lot
I'm going
that
to
could
try
go in
again.
here.
Try
Yeah.
again.
Let's hear it.
Metabolic adaptation is your body's ability to make an adjustment to your calorie output in response to you being in a deficit, is how I'd probably put it. Do you have a better definition than that?
Yeah, maybe not like that was a pretty succinct definition. I think like I'm going to put it this way, that your body likes staying the same. It's something called homeostasis. And
Yeah.
so if we are underfeeding or overfeeding or I'm going to say over exercising, all I mean is maybe not over exercising, but just increasing energy expenditure, decreasing energy expenditure, our body will try to adapt to stay the same. And so we have to, over time, increase the intensity of these different inputs, such as the amount of calories you put in or the amount of exercise that you're doing, in order to combat and push our body out of that homeostasis or staying the same. So
Right.
what this can look like from a practical point of view is, let's say you are 200 pounds and you get down, you start a fat loss phase. Maybe your calorie expenditure, your estimated expenditure, maybe it was 2,000 calories, for example. But as you start losing weight, maybe your energy starts going down. So you're moving around less. Maybe, and this can be subconscious. A lot of this metabolic adaptation comes from something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's things like tapping your foot or pacing around a little bit more, humming, singing, dancing, doing the dishes with a little more vigor, maybe. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
things
Honestly.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's things like this that can reduce your expenditure, and it's your body's way of saying like, hey, we are starving.
Yeah.
We need to slow down or we're gonna die. And
Yeah.
so it's your body's way of saying, just like we need to slow it down. Otherwise, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
To
essentially
kind
the
of bring up a
crux
good
of it.
example that goes with your accountant thing that
Mm.
you have on Reels that you've done, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if
yeah.
you were like overspending, your account's like, yo, we only have $1,000 left in our savings. Like, this is uncomfortable. I need you to stop spending. And if you were like, screw you, I'm not going to stop spending. And so your accountant's like, okay, well, let me take your credit cards away from you. It takes their credit cards, but you can still go pull cash from the ATM. Like, there still are ways you can combat that, obviously, but that's kind of what your body's doing, is you're tapping into your savings,
Yep.
aka your fat storage.
Yep.
And your body's like, we like having the storage of fat. We like having savings so that we know if there's a day where you don't eat enough food, we can pull from this fat storage and keep us alive. And so the less and less and less and less body fat storage you have, the more and more your body's like, okay, this isn't great. Like, we're dwindling on our storage here. And so your body responds to that through metabolic adaptation. So it's totally a real thing. I think it's also good to point out there's technically two ways that your body adapts. One is what you just talked about through conserving energy, right? Like you said, not tapping your feet, not scrubbing dishes as vigorously, I talk with my hands a lot when I'm not in a deficit. I kind of stop when I am in a deficit, but it's also just decreasing the size of your body. Somewhat more mass requires more energy to maintain it. And so the first line of the reason your metabolism is lowering is because you have again, assuming you're in a deficit, is because you have a smaller body. Same goes for the opposite. If you are gaining body fat or gaining weight in one of those, fat or muscle, you're going to demand more energy to maintain that new weight. And so the bulk of it comes from the size change. And then the second part that comes to that is your body saying like, hey, we have to re-regulate things to make this work and to be in that homeostasis like you were talking about.
Yeah, and everybody has like kind of different responses to, in terms of, yeah, the body size change. That's part of your basal metabolic rate, so that's not really that will vary a little bit,
Yeah.
but for the most part, somebody who is burning, let's just say at rest, somebody who weighs 200 pounds and somebody who weighs 150 pounds, the 200-pound person is going to burn a lot more calories at
Right.
rest. Obviously,
Right.
there's a lot of minutia that goes into that outside of that, but that's beyond this
Yeah.
conversation right now. The other part of it is when you are eating less. So there's something called the thermic effect of food. This is essentially the amount of energy it takes to digest and process and utilize the different foods that you eat. Fats and carbs have about a 5 to 10% thermic effect, whereas protein as a macronutrient has about 30% thermic effect.
Right.
What this means is if you eat a 100 calories worth of either carbs and fats or 100 calories worth of protein, carbs and fats might take 5 to 10 calories worth of energy to utilize, store, process, etc. Whereas the protein, it would be 30 calories. So if
Yeah.
you're doing this, if you have a higher proportion of your diet that is protein, great. You're going to have a higher thermic effect on your entire diet. But, keep in mind that when you're going from a bulk, from maintenance and potentially to a cut, you're reducing the amount of food. So again, your energy expenditure will decrease there too.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Your hunger hormones are probably going to ramp up at a certain point. Your fullness hormones are probably going to downregulate eventually. Yeah. Being in a cut for extended periods of time, there's no hard timeline, but, it's tough. It's tough to maintain.
I think the biggest issue that I see on social media with metabolic adaptation, though, is people saying, oh, the reason why you can't lose weight is because your metabolism adapted. And so now you can no longer lose any more weight. And
just stick a sword in me.
Right. So we need to talk and dive into this. So it's sure, if you were eating 1,200 calories, and let's say I'm 5'7" and I got down to 100 pounds and I'm eating 1,200 calories, I can't lose any more weight. Yeah, I'm 100 pounds, like
skin and bone. You'd be tiny.
Skin and bone. So it's like at that point, sure, like eating 1,500 calories may be maintenance for me, but we have to understand the reason why I'm not losing weight anymore isn't because well, I guess it is. It's because my metabolism basically adapted over time because I'm a smaller body. And so what the issue that I see is when someone is, let's just say my height, 5'7", 300 pounds, and a coach is telling them, hey, you've been chronic dieting for so long, your metabolism adapted, that's why you can't lose weight. And that is very
BS.
Far from the truth.
BS.
Now, BS. Yeah. Now, could you say like, okay, because you've been, gosh, it's even a stretch, but I'm trying to just be like the devil's advocate is like, okay, if you've been chronic dieting, sure. Have you stopped talking with your hands or tapping your feet or whatever? Sure. But like that is so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Again, if you're eating 1,500 calories and you're 5'7", 300 pounds, you will be losing weight. And if you're not, it's not because your metabolism has adapted so much that now 1,500 calories is maintenance for you. That's just not a thing. And so that's what I hate seeing online is I actually saw there's actually a coach that I follow, and I'm shocked that she started posting this stuff because she used to not, but she's been talking about this whole metabolic reset thing. And when she finally reset her metabolism, and I don't know what she's trying to do with this information and like why she started talking about this, but it's like, you don't need to reset your metabolism. Like if you weigh or are very overweight because you're over consuming calories, we need to reduce that and you will drop the weight. And then as you're going from 300 to 200 pounds, you will simply have to lower your calories because you now have a smaller body. Yes, are some of the things going to come into play like Alex talked about 100%, but that's the biggest scam that I see on social media nowadays is people saying
metabolic resets and stuff like that. Yeah.
Resets, or that you can't lose weight because you've been I'm sorry, if you've been chronic dieting at 1,500 calories and you are 5'7", 300 pounds, you would not be 5'7" and 300 pounds.
You're not eating 1,500
chronically
calories.
dieting.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about this before. Sorry, I'm going to finish this thought and then I'm going to let you
go
in. Something else that we have talked about is I feel like there's two types of chronic dieters. There is literally the person who has been at 1,500, 1,200, whatever calories and has lost a ton of weight and they're really, really thin and they think if they even get thinner that they'll get more tone and really need to be muscle. There's also people who have been in a deficit mindset for most of their life and they've spun their wheels for so long but have gotten no traction. And so to them, they feel like they've been chronically dieting when what's happening is you're maybe in a deficit during the week and then you don't on the weekends, or you say screw it, or you say I'll start Monday. And so you feel like you're in a deficit, but you're not. And that same fatigue sets in on you as someone who really is in a deficit. But you don't have the benefit of actually achieving the weight loss like you wanted. So yeah,
you just nailed it. No, seriously, you just nailed it. I just want to take like a second just to like let it marinate with the audience. Just like, wow. Yeah. I mean, you just hit a home run. I feel like that was awesome.
Thank you. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add specifically to. I feel like I was overtaking the time there, so I just wanted to see if you had anything to add to that.
There were like pieces that I was like, wait, she could talk about this, but then you did. So every single thing. No, I feel like you covered it all. Honestly, I don't know where to spin off from here.
I honestly think. Why don't you talk about like I think now the good segue to go into is like, does metabolic adaptation make losing weight hard? We're saying that like, no, metabolic adaptation is not the reason that you're, not losing weight, like all these coaches are saying, but can it make it more difficult? And I'll let you hop into that.
Yeah. I mean, right. Like, of course it can. Yeah. And I feel like this is such an easy, just obvious answer to a lot of people. I think,
I think for all the reasons that you said.
Yeah, for all the reasons that I said. I mean, your body doesn't want to change that much. And so you're fighting against it. And it happens when we're bulking, when we're cutting. This is the way that it goes. When I'm cutting, I mean, I can look at my Macro Factor, use code Alex for a 2-week free trial stats right now and see.
Every time you do that, I will always laugh. Just always.
And I can see my stats right now, and I can see like my expenditure plummeted from the start of the cut to the end of my cut. My expenditure went down, and that's despite like forcing myself to walk so many more walk so many more steps per day, like going from 8,000 steps to like 15,000 per day average.
Yeah.
It's like you can try to, I mean, you have to brute force it. That's the reality. For the people that are, man, I just want to touch on that again. For the people that do say like, I've been dieting, because I've seen this a lot lately. Yeah. I've been at 1,200 calories per day for the last year or 2 years or 3 years, and I'm still 250 pounds. No, you haven't. Yeah. No, you have not been at 1,200 calories even for one full year and be 250 pounds. That's just not the reality. And I know it might sound harsh. It might be like, no, but Alex, my metabolism is broken. No, it's not. It's not. That's just not the way it works. Yeah, I see that too much. I see that a little bit too often. I do feel for you though. And I really like that you touched on the diet mindset of things. It's like when you feel like you should be losing weight, when you feel like things are dialed in, and maybe Monday through Friday, you are very dialed in and you are massively in a deficit. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes around and it's like, okay, well, drinks with my friends on the weekend, we do get pizza. It's kind of, all of a sudden your deficit is completely gone. And so you're feeling really sluggish on the weekends or on the week because you're very low energy intake. Then on the weekends, you're slamming a bunch of alcohol and just eating like crazy. And so you're going to feel really tired because of the poor sleep and the stress from that alcohol provides. And so it's like we're in this really negative feedback loop. Yeah. And it's just not helping people. I think a lot of people would feel a lot better if they could standardize. I'm all for calorie cycling and stuff like that. Yeah. As long as it's strategic, Right. But I think a lot of people would feel better if they could just normalize plus minus 10% maybe their energy intake across the week rather than like these massive spikes on the weekend that I see so often.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to make sure everyone knows, like, one, me and Alex are blunt like this and honest like this because, like, I think we just don't want to sugarcoat it. Like, we don't want you to keep spinning your wheels. We're telling you like it is so that way you understand, like, I don't know. I spent a lot of my journey following and listening to these other coaches that didn't know what they were talking about. And I could have saved so much time if someone just give it to me straight. And so we're not saying the stuff in this way to be mean. We're just trying to be very honest with you so you understand what's going on. And I think second, I just want to disclaim is that this is us not saying that it's not hard. Like, any obstacle you have for any situation in life is going to make it more difficult. But you only have two choices: embrace it and move forward, or don't embrace it and let it set you back. And so it's like, metabolic adaptation is something that everyone will experience. There's not a single person that has lost weight that has not experienced this. So it's just like, It is what it is. You make adjustments and you move forward and you embrace and move forward. Cause that's your only option. If you want to lose body fat, you understand this is a factor and you take that into account. But if you're not even consistent with hitting your calories Monday to Monday, all 7 days, you don't even be looking at metabolic adaptation. You'd be looking at how can I be consistent? And then once you're consistent, you look at your data and you'd be like, okay, now where do I need to change things and go from there?
Have you ever had somebody that's come up to you and said, oh, when you're 30 or, oh, when you're 40 or, oh, when you're fit. Yeah, you already know where I'm going.
Of course. Yeah.
They come up to you and they might say, when you're 30 or when you're 40 or when you're 50, your metabolism is going to slow down and then you'll be gaining the weight. I know it's all sunshine and roses for you right now.
I wish I was 20 again and could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, that's it right there. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
And I'm just like, that. I just smile and wave.
Sure,
I don't know. Like,
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So I want to dive into this study, and this was by a guy named Herman Poncer. Herman Poncer is one of, I would say, the world's leading researchers on energy expenditure and metabolism as a whole. So if you have a question about metabolism, he's the guy, and his studies are probably the ones to look at. So this study was called Daily Energy Expenditure Through the Human Life Course. It was a massive study. Researchers analyzed total daily energy expenditure from over 6,400 participants across 29 countries. They made several significant observations, including, I'm just going to rapid fire these 1 through 5. We can talk about them
I want to add too, they also did it from the age range was, I think, 8 days to 92 years. So 8 days meaning like an infant.
Yes.
8 days born, 92 years.
Yeah, so important. They use this method called doubly labeled water. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah. I think we talked about it in our metabolism episode a little bit, but still go for it and refresh the
Nope, audience. Not gonna, because the way that it works is so confusing to me. I literally, there's like some kind of extra isotope, and so you drink this water specifically, like they send you a case of this water, and based on how much of this isotope, then you send in your urine or something like that, and how much of that is gone. I don't know how it works. I've tried to read it.
Explanation, and from there they measure those two things using
that, and you can see like the energy expenditure of a person. It's like the science needed to figure that out.
It's probably would it be the remaining amount that's in the pee is probably what they measure?
Probably.
That's my guess.
And like your body uses your body uses the other parts of it.
Or what's in there is how much you used of it. I don't know, one way or
I
the
don't
other,
know.
But yeah.
Don't know. No idea.
Yeah.
But anyways, they use that doubly labeled water. I think it's a really interesting thing. But anyways, so here are the 5 main takeaways. First, male and females exhibit similar energy expenditure when accounting for body composition. So if Brie and I were the same body composition, same height, same weight, same muscle mass, etc., we would have very similar energy expenditure. Obviously, it's individualized between everybody, but you get the point.
Wait, I want to stay on that one.
Sure.
This is the reason that men have higher metabolisms, because we have a different body composition. I think it's very important. It's always like, my husband or my boyfriend can eat so much more than me. Yeah, because
he's
he weighs
200 pounds and you're 120.
And men are naturally going to have more muscle. So it's like, when you account for body composition, again, if me and Alex, if I just like whoosh, like she hulked tomorrow into the same size that Alex was with the same amount of muscle.
Okay, pause. Thank you for saying you would have to She-Hulk in order to be my size. What an ego boost. What a massive ego boost for me. You didn't have to say that.
No, I mean, it's true. You know, you look insane. You're looking great.
Appreciate it.
We would burn very similar calories. And so I just really want to hit home, because I do hear women a lot really complain about how their spouse or partner can consume more than them. And it's like, it's just the hand that we're dealt, being smaller creatures. Get over it, because it's not changing unless you want to put on that much muscle and get as large as your significant other. So let's move on.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Number 2.
Even if your husband, maybe your husband doesn't look like he has a lot of muscle, and maybe he has a little bit excess body fat, I guarantee he's got a lot of muscle under there.
And even if it's not a lot, it's more than you.
Yeah. Almost guaranteed it's more than.
Yeah. If you both don't work out, he's just naturally going to have more muscle than you.
Yes, correct. So. Side note, muscle doesn't burn that much more than fat. Burn that many more calories than fat. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2 to 4 calories per pound, and like gaining
for fat or for
muscle versus fat.
I think fat is like 2 to 3 and muscle's like 6 to 7. So it's almost double. However, this is the part where like we have to just emphasize, like it doesn't, just like you're saying, is if you lose 20 pounds of body fat and gain 10 pounds of muscle, your net amount is actually probably less. And so I think that's where the majority of that is important to emphasize.
Yeah. If you start lifting even for a year, maybe you put on 10 pounds of muscle, you know, if things are pretty solid, 10, 15 pounds of muscle. Maybe if it's your first year, you have the craziest genetics in the world, you're in a surplus, everything is dialed in. You're following either the Brianna Ray fitness program, or you're following the A-Team training programs, or you hire one of us as a coach. Maybe you're getting more than that pounds of muscle, but like, I can't see many people that are going to be gaining much more than 2 pounds of muscle per month. They exist, right?
Yeah.
But that'd be like genetic outliers for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But just do the math to that. Let's just say let's say on the best end, you put on, 10 pounds of muscle with burning 6 calories per pound of muscle. That's only 60 extra calories that you just added to your thing. And then that's if you didn't lose any body fat. That's just pure muscle. So if you lost some body fat, you would net that. And I don't know how much body fat you lose. I'm not going to do that math that quick. But like if you lost some body fat, it may only net 10 extra calories.
Right.
So, Muscle's great. Just don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Agreed. The second point on this, and this is a massive one. Oh my gosh. I feel like heads exploded when this came out because this is a pretty recent study. I think it came out either last year or the year before.
2021, I think.
I thought it was 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one is energy expenditure remains relatively stable between the ages of 20 and 60, even during pregnancy when body composition is considered. Very, very important here. So for the people that say things like, oh, my metabolism isn't as fast as it was, maybe you're 50 years old. My metabolism as fast as it was when I was 20. Yeah. It is actually, like, in terms of the resting rate, it is. Now, what changed, right? Probably the big one is you're moving a whole lot less. You have a desk job now, whereas back then, maybe you were in college, maybe you were just social, maybe you had some kind of hobby. Yeah, maybe you were a server, maybe you had some hobbies that you were outside, maybe you were hiking, maybe you were going for runs more often. Whatever it is, your daily energy expenditure was probably higher if you have this, but it is nothing to do with your metabolism. It's nothing to do with like you are broken. I mean, it is to do with your metabolism, but like I feel like people will understand what I mean here.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. The biggest thing, and we talked about this metabolism episode, which I think is episode 26, maybe it's 27. It's right around there if you want to go listen to it. Just look at roughly somewhere 26, 27. It'll be right there. It looks like you're probably going to look it up and confirm that for me. Okay. I'll let you confirm for me. But yeah, the biggest change is, and we talk about this, the timestamp, I actually looked it up today. It's 48 minutes and 20 seconds. We talk about this, especially with like menopause and all that. And, your metabolism doesn't go great find. I think so many people are like, oh my gosh, like it really doesn't go down. It's like, yeah, what's so great about that is that it's not your metabolism damage. It is in your control. And what's in your control is your lifestyle. And that's the biggest factor that changes between 20 and 60, even 40 and 60. You know what I mean? A lot of people have their kids in their 40s and 50s going off to college. And then that's where the weight gain comes up. And it's like, you don't have to drive your kids around anymore. They're off on their own. You're not making all these meals every single day. The weekends are freed up because you don't have sports to go to or whatever it is. And so those are the biggest changes that you'll see.
And some people just end up having more money, so they go out to restaurants more. They don't feel like cooking so much anymore, so they just go out to eat more.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So many things have changed.
So yeah, that was point 2. Point 3, after the age of 60, both fat-free mass, pretty much colloquially known as muscle, not perfectly known as muscle, but we're just going to consider it. What'd you say?
I said colloquially.
That's
a good word.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask what it means, though, because then you're going to shame me in saying it's a small word.
No, it's okay. After the age of 60, both fat-free mass and total daily energy expenditure decrease, but fat mass and body fat percentage do not exhibit substantial increases. So, I think it's really important to understand that as you're aging, muscle growth does get harder. One, total daily energy expenditure going down, that makes sense. After you're 60, I mean, mobility might get a little bit harder than when you're 30 years old. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. But one thing that you can do, muscle loss is not a guarantee. I mean, look at Joan. Look at Joan, the lifter Joan. Train with Joan. She's like, what? I mean, I don't want to. 77 years old, and she's jacked. You can still gain muscle. It is a little bit harder. You have to worry a little bit more.
She started training when she was 70. Like, I just need to point that. It wasn't like she's 77 and has all this muscle. She was 70 and decided to be healthier and get muscle to be more able-bodied. And she started building this muscle at 70.
Yeah. So don't use that as an excuse. These are just like averages across 6,400 people. But don't use that as an excuse. Now, point 4 is age-related reductions in energy expenditure may be attributed to the loss of fat-free mass, lower activity levels, and decline in organ-level metabolic rates. I think this is so interesting. Greg Nuckols recently looked at how metabolism changes and like, do people really have slower and faster metabolisms? Turns out they actually do, which is so interesting. On a genetic level, certain people's organs are bigger or smaller, and that actually has a pretty big impact on your resting metabolic rate. I thought that was so interesting.
Very interesting.
And so again, I think it still does go back to your, it's both of our kind of like sentiment of play the hand you're dealt. Like, we're not changing our organ size, guys.
No. And to this point, I think the amount that it changes. So after the age of 60, they do see that it starts to decline, but the amount that it declines is so small.
Small.
Forgot what the percentage is, but you and me on our like metabolic metabolism isn't
5%,
broken.
maybe 10% tops.
Yeah, in our episode, we like did the math. We're like, okay, if your
It was
maintenance
episode
level is
25, by the way. Sorry for not plugging that
okay,
earlier.
perfect. 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
If your maintenance is this many calories and you times it by the amount that it reduces, it was like it reduced by maybe like 100 calories a year, maybe. And I think that was actually higher. I think it was less than that. It
was pretty minimal.
It was like 50 calories or something. It was really small. Again, go listen to the episode. I can't remember. We did like the math of like how much it would be.
And then the fifth and final point from this study that I think is an important takeaway is even after controlling for body composition, sex, and age, there is still a considerable variation in energy expenditure between individuals. So this makes it pretty difficult to predict specific variations accurately. But basically, what I'm saying here is that, like, let's say you have a friend named Jane, and Jane is the same height, same weight as you. You guys do the same stuff. Jane might burn more or less calories. That does not make you or Jane better or worse as people. It's just the hand that you were dealt. So if you have somebody that's like, oh, well, I'm doing the same thing he is, or I'm doing the same thing she is, why am I not losing the same weight? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you have bigger organs. Nobody knows. I don't know.
And this is the thing is like you focusing on that. How does that move you forward?
Or smaller organs, I should say. But yeah.
It doesn't at all. So it's like, sure, you can recognize that and make note of that, but like you figuring out why doesn't solve your problem moving forward. You're dealt the hand you're dealt with, and it's time to focus on you.
Jordan Lips had a post on this the other day that was so good. It's like, why am I doing this, and not losing the same weight as X person? And he was like, who gives a shit? I thought it was literally. Like, it was so good. So good from him.
Yeah. Agreed.
So if you feel like your metabolism is holding you back, your energy expenditure is holding you back, maybe it feels really low, maybe it feels like, wow, my calories are low and I'm still not losing weight, we have 4 tips for you right here, takeaways that will help boost your metabolism. I don't love saying that, but increase your energy expenditure is the way I want to say.
There you go. Yeah, increase your energy. And they're not like woohoo ways. These are just practical things that you're probably already trying to do.
Yep. So first, lift weights and build muscle. This is extremely important as you age for more than just an energy expenditure perspective. It's important for health. It supports your joints. If you want to be able to squat up and off the toilet when you're 80 years old, you're going to want to be able to squat with dumbbells or barbells or whatever you got.
Just your body weight.
Yeah, just squat your body weight. And if, there are regressions for maybe your parents or for you or whoever needs it, you can do assisted box squats, where you hold on to a chair and then squat down on a box. You could do step ups, just do step ups and put like 1 book down. Then the next week, go to 2 books, go to 3 books. Then eventually you get up to a knee height box squat or a step up. Then you hold on to dumbbells. There's so many ways you can regress and progress all these movements that I hate using this word, but are very functional to your life. Weightlifting is functional. If you have more muscle, that is so functional to your day-to-day life. You don't have to be doing these crazy Bosu ball exercises because that's not what you're doing in real life. Right? Yeah. You're doing deadlifts, you're doing squats, you're doing overhead presses. If you build your muscle and you get stronger, your quality of life will improve.
Yeah. And I just want to put out there too, I think, again, as females, you're just like, oh, I don't want to get too much muscle. I don't want to get bulky or whatever. One, like, okay, first of all, you're not.
Right.
2, it's important that you try to build a good substantial amount of muscle because like Alex had said, once you get, over your 60s and get older, it gets harder and harder and harder, not only to build muscle, but to also like maintain, it takes more effort to maintain that muscle. So if you can start up here ahead of the game, and the idea is that you're going to continue to train and continue to prioritize muscle. You're going to lose muscle at such a slower rate. One, because you're prioritizing just even maintaining it during there, but you're going to start at such a higher amount that, by the time, not to get morbid, but like you eventually pass, you'll probably have over average amount of muscle versus someone who wasn't weight training. They started declining with an average amount. And then ultimately, who knows how they passed? Maybe they fell, maybe they something that could have been avoided muscle related if they had strength.
Right. Yeah. I mean, falling is obviously a very high mortality rate for like complications that go along with broken bones and healing hips. If you're strong enough that if you do fall, you catch yourself, you are in good shape.
Well, and also you're strong that your bones don't, I mean, you could still
yeah.
obviously break them, but you don't have as brittle bones, like everything
Wolf's
can just
Law.
help.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but before I was in the training world, I guess like at the same time I was kind of in the training world, I spent a year doing medical device sales to
Oh, wow.
doctors, neurosurgeons.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot about bone healing. And one of the things specifically in regards to bone is called Wolf's Law. And bone adapts to the stressors applied to it. If you have more muscle, your bone mineral density increases because there's more stress being put on the bone. And that's a good thing.
Right.
That's a really, really good thing.
Yeah.
Did you know that, by the way, about me?
Yes.
You did?
I did.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
You know everything. Tip number 2 for increasing your energy expenditure, metabolic rate, whatever we want to call it, is eat more protein. So like I said earlier in the episode, protein has a higher thermic effect. So simply by eating more protein, there's a few benefits to this. I'm going to go over them very quickly. First, you will be more satiated. So you'll probably eat less food because you're not as hungry. Point 2, yes, protein has a higher thermic effect, which is great. Point 3, it improves your muscle growth capabilities, and point 4, it increases your muscle retention capabilities. These are two separate things, both muscle growth and muscle retention. We need to be worrying about, in my opinion, maybe not worrying about, but I think
more concerned with
muscle protein breakdown. Studies are so, and maybe there's a protein researcher that could give me a really succinct explanation of why we only look at muscle protein synthesis in most studies, but we don't look at muscle protein breakdown enough. And in my opinion, this should be more cared about. And so it's a big reason I don't like intermittent fasting, is because we're going through such a long period of muscle protein breakdown. I don't, especially for aging people, I don't agree with intermittent fasting from that perspective. If you love intermittent fasting, do a protein spared intermittent fast would be my recommendation, where you have a protein shake or some kind of protein bolus early in the morning so you can break that long sleeping fast, break fast, right? Breakfast.
Yeah.
So that we can break that fast as soon as possible and get some anabolic processes going, especially if you're over 60. Like I think that's it should be more important in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Point 3, eat more fruits and veggies, or in general, just fiber. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I feel like when this is like, do we even have to explain why you should eat more fruits and veggies?
Fiber is highly satiating.
Like you said, getting fiber in, will obviously keep you more satiated. Getting fiber in general is going to enhance your overall health. And I mean, yeah.
Yeah. There's not one. There's the other one's kind of had a lot to go off of. This one is pretty much just like a blank,
Yeah, and I hate to assume that people know why, but like bringing up the fiber portion is really important, of like that's going to keep you more full and satiated. But it's just like, if we're talking just more about like your metabolism, yeah, the fiber part's going to be the biggest beneficial. We're talking about just health in general. Like you're just going to feel better, and just like, no, feeling better. Well, actually, you can argue that feeling better is going to technically boost your metabolism. Yeah. So if you feel good, you'll walk around, you'll move more. So
yeah, true.
There's always an argument for that. So,
what are some of your favorite?
Last one here is
wait. What are some of your favorite fiber go-tos? Mine's
apples.
Broccoli. Broccoli is a staple for me.
I'm not a big vegetable person. I wish I was.
I'm allergic to a whole lot of fruits.
I love edamame. Edamame is a good one. I honestly go for apples a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're really satiating for me, so that's why I think I mean, right now they're probably not that ideal. I still eat them, but like especially in a cut, like I get real full off an apple. So
berries are great. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, those are all chock full of.
Strawberries and blueberries I eat a lot too.
Yep. Those are all good. Okay, let's go to the final point.
Go for a daily walk. Try to reduce the amount of time that you're sedentary. So you just simply being a more active person is going to increase your metabolism, because your body's going to demand more energy because you're more active. So, getting a standing desk so you can put a treadmill under it is an immediate way that you can just overall increase your metabolism. Yeah. Going for a daily walk, not carrying your groceries in all one trip, actually attempting that actually reduces your metabolism. Just going for multiple trips,
right.
All of that. Just the more active you are, the more energy demand there is. And so the more your body's going to have to burn, because it need energy for what you're burning. So
yeah. And if you're feeling like that stiffness in your lower back or your hips, sometimes, yes, it could be due to weakness, but I strong people, also people with really strong backs, also feel that stiffness or that pain in their lower back. So the number one thing that I would recommend you do is just spend less consistent time sedentary. So I know a lot of us, we have 8-hour desk jobs, right? But if you could break up those into 30-minute segments, just get up for 10 seconds, literally just 10 seconds. I work from home. Obviously I work for myself. Yeah. So when I'm doing a fat loss phase, yes, I do have the walking pad underneath my desk, but if Maddie's using it or something and I need some I'll get up and use the farthest bathroom in my house. So it's just a little bit farther, maybe an extra 2-3 dozen steps, not too much farther, but it adds up. And then I will also literally jog in place. I'll set a 30-second timer and just jog in place. It honestly helps out. I can get 100, maybe 200 steps real quickly. You do that 4, 5, 6 times throughout the day, call them exercise snacks, you're in business.
Yeah. I mean, there's just and there's little things that, you were talking about the things that you do and things that I do. I stopped asking Sage to hand me everything. The amount of times
you told me
I'm on the couch, I'm like, can you pass the remote? Can you grab my phone for me? Can you grab my Stanley? I'm like, dude, just get up and grab it yourself. And it's sad to realize I realized through doing this, how much I ask him to get stuff, because I'm like, wow, I just increased my steps by 1,000 today because I just got up and grabbed stuff when I needed it. And so there's just little things that you can do. You feel like some people think it's this dedicated going for an hour walk, but it's really simple as parking farther from the store. If I even talked, I think I said this in another episode, but laundry, instead of me trying to get all the laundry, I will hang something up on a hanger, and I'll go hang in I'm losing my words, hang it in the closet, and I'll walk back to my bed, put something on a hanger, walk back to the closet, and me just, instead of in one go hanging up all my clothes, I'll just figure out a way to be more active and take more steps. And those things really do help and add up.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when I'm playing video games with my friends, I will stand up in between games and I'll either run in place or I'll do just some squat, just something just anything to just get me moving a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly.
There was something else I wanted to say about, I have not to plug my own stuff, but I do have this pretty old blog article. It's pretty old, on the importance of steps. And I did repost it the other day with the walking pad giveaway announcement, which, by the way, sorry, don't go scrambling. It's already done.
It's already closed.
It's already closed. It's already given away. But I'm a huge believer that if people could get a walking pad or treadmill, whatever we want to call it, walking pad or treadmill, and if they could get a pair of adjustable dumbbells and an adjustable bench in their home, that's all you need. I mean, seriously, if you want to drastically improve your body composition, you need to lower the barriers to your own fitness, and that is the biggest way that you can do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Do we want to talk about anything else, or you want to wrap it up there? I mean...
we didn't talk about how metabolic adaptation technically is beneficial in certain situations. We could just go through that, or do we want to end it here?
I mean, we could gloss over it. If you're, let's say I'm in the 1200s or the 1300s, right? And I can't just.
I think we could go back even farther than that.
We could go back to 1905. We could go back farther.
1905.
I know that's not farther back, but I'm saying right now I'm able to pick up my little glass device, my iPhone. I'm able to tap it.
Computer.
I'm able to tap it a few times, and within 30 minutes, there will be a pizza at my doorstep.
Right.
That's magic. Yeah. That's literally magical. If I were trying to tell my great-great-grandparents about that, their heads would explode. So our availability toward food has increased so much. The calorie density of food has increased so much because these companies, I know this is a different tangent, but just let me keep going.
You're fine.
These companies want you to buy their food, so they're going to make it more delicious. To make it more delicious, a lot of times that means
access
and easier to access. And so their job is to make money. Their job isn't to keep us skinny, right? That's our want. In the past, we used to have to kind of go through a little bit to get food. It wasn't just a few taps on our phone. We got this awesome pizza.
Hunter and gatherer kind of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of gathering, a little bit of hunting, a little bit of dragging an elk back to the thing, having to cook it up. And so if we had less energy intake because we weren't hunting, we weren't gathering, maybe there was a frost, maybe there was just, I don't know, whatever happened, back then, same kind of weather stuff. We didn't have this brick house that we have now, right?
Right.
It was an evolutionary benefit that our body is able to downregulate our energy expenditure, because if we did not have that capability, a lot of us probably would not be here today because our great grandparents I mean, they are dead, but they would have been dead too.
Almost like 10 billion strong across the world. It'd
right.
be very much
it would
less.
It would not be so hot for us.
There's so many, and we talked about this in a different episode. There's so many things that our body does that we see as like negative,
like stored body fat.
Literally, the ability to store body fat. If
mind-boggling.
We did not have the ability to store body fat, we would die.
Yes, we can eat more food now and in through like maybe the summer months when we're able to hunt a bit more and hold on to that energy. We can hang on to more energy so that we can utilize it and survive through the winter when there isn't as much. Like, guys, that is just crazy. You should be so grateful if you have like a roll or two. Like, wow, I have a lot of energy in my body. That's awesome. That go me, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of stuff we take for granted when we don't realize we'd be dead if we didn't have it.
Yeah,
so
100% agree.
Yeah, cool. Let's wrap it up there then.
Yeah, let's wrap it up there.
All right. Well, as always, guys, please shoot DMs with your feedback, what you liked, your biggest takeaways. We'll catch you guys all on the next episode.
All right,
Bye.
Take care, guys.